Didn't know I was going to be doing a video today, but Square Enix is on their bullshit. Hey everyone, it's me, whoever the hell I am, here with another hot take no one wants to hear. I both radiate and feed off of negative energy. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay, there's a lot of discussions you could have around this game, to its combat mechanics, to its retelling of the story, to the graphical inconsistencies. There's a decent amount to talk about here. State of play, a thing I did not care about because I don't care about most live stream award shows anymore. They're a waste of time. It's usually an hour or more of content just for a few announcements you actually care about. And I follow enough gaming pages that if anything I do care about gets announced, I'll know about it. Bringing us back to Final Fantasy VII Remake. There were a couple announcements, one of them pertaining to a semi-remake. There's a second remake going along with this remake, and this new remake is more faithful to the original than the current remake. This is a strange time we're living in. I think we hit the wrong reality. We are in the wrong timeline, my friends. And then from the department of nobody fucking asked for this, Final Fantasy VII Battle Royale. Seriously, was there like some kind of disturbance in the space-time continuum and now we're just trapped in the worst timeline ever? But like, really, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about a specific announcement pertaining Final Fantasy VII Remake, the PS4 remake, the big budget remake series we're all supposed to stay excited for right now. Final Fantasy VII Remake is getting a PS5 port, which we all expected. It's kind of obvious it was going to get one. I mean, if Yakuza 7 gets a PS5 port, Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're completely unrelated. Why did I make that comparison? Point is nobody's surprised. You show me somebody who is surprised, and I'll show you somebody who's a liar. What we weren't expecting was a Yuffie DLC. Now, before anything else, I would just like to say, Yuffie looks fucking awesome. And her combat style looks fucking awesome. She's one of my favorite characters in the original, and it's awesome just to see her in general. But here's why I'm not excited for it at all. First off, it's a PS5 exclusive, this DLC, so, I mean, I can't even play it right now, or maybe ever, because I've almost just ran the PS5 off completely. I mean, maybe years down the line, if I have spare cash and they're more available, I'll get one, but I really don't care beyond that. Most of the exclusives of the PS4 generation just flat out were underwhelming. So, like, I'm not getting another console just for exclusive content. I mean, and I'm talking about just games, let alone a goddamn DLC. A DLC for a game that already exists on PS4. And their explanation for this is kind of weak in my opinion, is they want to take full advantage of the PS5 hardware for a game that ran pretty damn well on base PS4. The performance was not a problem with Final Fantasy VII Remake, or at least not to a huge problem. It was nowhere fucking close to Cyberpunk. It ran better than I think even Tsushima did. Granted, it's not a large open world, so that's not a fair comparison. Point is, game ran well and combat was fluid and smooth on the PS4. So, really, like, here's the thing. If this was a game like Cyberpunk, right, and CD Projekt Red is like, we're making this DLC exclusive to PS5 because that's the only way, you know, we'll be able to, like, truly make it something great. That I believe because of how fucking broken and janky Cyberpunk is on PS4. Final Fantasy VII isn't that, though. It runs good, so it's just an empty excuse, especially when they won't even explain what it is they want to accomplish with taking the full advantage of the PS5 hardware. Like, what, better graphics? Like, okay, that's nice, but does that alone justify locking this DLC off to the PS5? No. So unless they plan to make this look super amazing and be a huge, large open world, which, funny enough, would make it a bigger game than the base. Would make it a bigger game than base Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's almost as if they have an exclusivity deal with Sony, and Sony's trying to push a brand new console right now that, despite selling well for them, most people can't get their hands on because of goddamn scalpers, and they know that because it's been reported on massively since the release of the console, and they probably know that a lot of people are losing interest in the console because of how hard it is to get. So, I mean, how do you get people re-interested in your console that's hard to get a hold of right now? Exclusive DLC for a highly anticipated and loved game. And the amount of people I've seen already accept this line of reasoning that, oh, it's because they really want to take advantage of the hardware. Y'all are a bunch of Square Enix bootlickers. Look, I'm not going to get into my overall personal problems with the remake, because that could be its own video, and that's not really the point here. The point here is that if you can't see this for what this is, right? Two companies working together to bolster both of their products, then you are being naive. With the amount of bigger games with more consistent graphics, there's not really an excuse here. Ghost of Tsushima, I'm not the biggest fan of that game, but my god, its game is beautiful. It's a beautiful game, and it has this big open world you can explore, and there is a consistency to the overall presentation that doesn't pull you out of it. It doesn't go from looking super amazing one moment and then looking like a mid-tier PS3 game the next. And again, I know they're going to use the hardware to make the graphics probably a whole lot more consistent and shit, but that, and again, in it of itself does not justify this not being on PS4. I think most people, when given the chance of playing this at its visually best or playing a slightly downgraded version of it, most people are going to choose to play the slightly downgraded version of it, especially since you're not even getting it for free if you get a PS5. You still have to buy the DLC separately. So, like, why the hell not? I mean, I don't know. If there's, like, if they can give some sort of explanation for why they really need all that hardware in the PS5 to pull this DLC off, I'm open ears. But, like, from what I've seen in the combat trailer, the combat doesn't look any more sophisticated than it did in the base game. And again, the combat ran perfectly fine. And I played it on a shitty old PS4. Okay, you wanna know how old my PS4 is? PT is still on it. This was a white PS4 for the original release of Destiny 1, which I only got because I just liked the white PS4. I thought it looked nice. In hindsight, it's all smudgy and dirty and stained now, so I'm gonna go with black next time. Now I'm getting sidetracked. Where was I? Oh yeah, Yuffie DLC. Beyond just unnecessarily being locked off to the PS5, we also have to deal with the fact that they're shoehorning Yuffie into a part of the story she just isn't originally a part of. And I don't see this narrative being all that important to the overall story of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, I'll admit, I could easily be proven wrong, but I highly doubt it. It's presented, at least from the trailer I saw, as this parallel to the events in the main game type scenario, which just represents every problem I have with any story or game that Nomura is a part of. I know Nomura isn't directly responsible for the story of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but he's complicit in it. And furthermore, it comes out of his handbook of bad plot devices. This idea that Yuffie has to have been at Midgar and had some sort of, behind the scenes role in what happened, instead of her just being her own self-contained character with her own self-contained arc within the story. Now she's some operative for the new Wutai government, and is working with this character who I'm sure isn't going to get killed off just for the sake of, you know, explaining why she's all alone when we meet her in part 2. All to shoehorn her into a scenario and into events that don't really make sense for her to be in. God forbid she remains the fun ninja chick who joins your group to try to con you and eventually sticks with you guys because you become such great friends. I mean, one of the only things that had me excited for part 2 was to see how she was introduced to the series, but you just blew that out the window. Like you did to Wedge. It just feels like they're falling into the habits that created the compilation in the first place. Them not caring about the license, or where they take it, or the legacy that it holds. Just them doing whatever with it, trying to get their money while they still can. Or as much money as they can before people see it as a cash grab. And those of you trying to say like, oh, people only mad about this because they don't have a PS5. Well, congratulations. You're kind of a dick. It's like, yeah, we're in a time right now where a lot of people are out of work where they usually wouldn't be because of a pandemic. Because of that pandemic, there's even more limited stock of this brand new console than there usually is with brand new console releases. And also because of this pandemic, you can't get them in physical stores, which has just opened the floodgates to scalper groups stealing them en masse, more than usual. And Square Enix's thought was, you have this limited console that people are having a hard time getting a hold of because of money restrictions, because of scalpers, and because of the limitation of the hardware itself. You know what's the best idea we can do right now? Sanction off a DLC that a lot of people are really going to want to play to this brand new console. Like, I think people have a right to be upset that a game they own for PS4, they're going to have to get a whole new console just to play new content for it. Do you not see that at all a little bit screwed up? I mean, I already think it's a little bit screwed up to get a brand new console just for a couple games, let alone a DLC. And I know I'm gonna get the defense. Well, then don't just get it for a few things. It's like, okay, some people don't have that option, or maybe are so much into Final Fantasy VII that they're not going to be able to resist the urge. I was one point such a hardcore Kingdom Hearts fan that I bought both a PSP and a 3DS specifically just for those games. You don't think people won't do the same here? They know people will do the same. They're fucking banking on it. But yeah, let's blame people who have been screwed over because of this pandemic and won't be able to experience this DLC when they want to, for being upset that Square Enix made this poorly thought out and greedy decision. This is like when people got mad at that one Kotaku journalist for pointing out that the release of the PS5 came at a really bad time. Now granted, he was a little bit overzealous in explaining his point, and I think that's the main fault of the article, but he had a good point. But at least with that, you could argue that, I mean, they didn't know how bad the scalping was going to be then, and at that point they already had a release date in mind. I mean, this shit does get decided like well in advance, and at some point they can't just back out or keep delaying the console. So at least there's somewhat of an excuse, but here, Square, we have the data to show how many PS4s have been scalped. We know how limited and how hard of a time people are having getting these consoles, and they still chose to do it. That's just scummy to me. And if you have an argument against it, I'd love to hear it, but for now, until I hear that argument, this just comes off as honestly, just a huge anti-consumer move. People are all ready to get into a frenzy when a game adds in microtransactions, but when a company does this, there has to be excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. How is this not anti-consumer? I don't know. I needed to release these thoughts somewhere instead of letting them permeate in my mind and pacing around my room and doing nothing with them. So I made this video. If you like it, hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment, and I do a Sunday stream around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm right now playing Siren for the PS2, and it's pretty damn fun. So come in, join, we'll have a good time. With all that said, it's time to end the video with my nonsensical send-off. I'm gonna go play in traffic now. I'll see you all later.